Hello and welcome back to another edition of Press Pass on GNAT-TV. I'm Andrew McKeever, the news director here at GNAT-TV's News Project. It's a pleasure to have you with us today, and a great pleasure also to be joined by Greg Sukiennik, who is the engagement and opinion editor for the New England newspapers. That's the Bennington Banner, Manchester Journal, and Brattleboro Reformer, and that other little paper down there in Pittsfield. I think that they call it the Berkshire Eagle.
That'd be the one.
Greg, welcome back. Good to see you again.
It's good to be back, and as we are not in the usual GNAT mothership in Sunderland, I see today you've got the home office going. I am here. I broke into room 204 of the First Congregational Church on Main Street.
Hallowed and sacred ground.
Indeed it is, in more ways than one.
Absolutely.
And I come in every once in a while to rake the newspapers that pile up at the door. For the most part, you know, we've all been working from home, doing our best to halt the spread and still do our job.
Mm-hmm.
So, which has been a challenging job these days. So
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here, and there's no one else here, so hence no mask. But you know, we're healthy and happy, and just trying to serve the community as best as we can in these unprecedented times.
Boy, no kidding. Unprecedented, unusual, all kinds of adjectives apply here.
You hear every one of those phrases on TV if you watch enough ads, and you know.
Well, let's get into it then. Bring us up to date then on kind of some of the stories you've been covering, or some of the reactions you've been sort of hearing, observing, seeing.
Sure.
As we've kind of worked our way through this pandemic over the last couple of months here, things seem to be gradually loosening up a little bit. The governor announced that the retail shops can open up as of next Monday, I believe, May 18th.
May 18th, that's the day. So sort of a slow turning of the spigot, still with restrictions. You know, certainly here in Manchester, with its, you know, where retail is such a big part of the economy, less than it used to be, but still significant. That's big news. A lot of businesses, you know, I've heard from some folks who, some folks were able to get those PPP loans, Paycheck Protection Program loans. Some folks weren't, and the meter's still running on their rent and their other expenses. So that'll be some good news for some folks. One of the interesting things here in Manchester, with that goes with retail, however, is that masks are going to be, they're not going to be compulsory for customers. They'll be compulsory for staff in these stores. And so this is a region from the times that I've been out and doing the job, and just being a resident of Manchester, I've seen a lot of mask compliance. So we'll see, you know, how important that is locally on how many people will wear masks, and whether that becomes an issue at some places.
Well, it's been interesting to me to kind of watch the evolution of that. I mean, a couple of months ago, you know, I would have said, wow, the whole idea of people wearing masks all the time when they go to a grocery store is never going to happen here. That they may have the culture for that in China, perhaps, but, you know, here, nobody's going to go along with that. And I've been pleasantly surprised, actually, to see people doing, you know, as it's gone on. I mean, I think initially it took a while for people to kind of get the hang of it, so to speak, but the social distancing and the mask wearing and the other hygienic measures, it seems like they've been pretty well accepted.
Yes, the supermarkets that I patronize, everyone's wearing a mask. That's customers, staff, everybody. We did a story a few weeks ago about how Manchester actually got into was able to come into some personal protective equipment through connections with some business owners who were residents of Manchester. And they were selling surgical masks at cost at Kilburn's, I believe. And actually, I took a picture of it. I don't have to believe it. I actually saw it. It was there. So I think that helps, having masks available. And I think just as this has dragged on and people became more aware that community spread was a threat, people here took it seriously. And if you look at Vermont's numbers relative to the numbers of our neighboring states, so certainly we have a lack of population density on our side. It would stand to figure that we'd have far fewer cases than Massachusetts when we have 1/10 of the population. But if you look at Vermont's numbers as opposed to New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, things are still fairly positive. And I'm wondering what the reaction will be on folks wanting to continue wearing masks to not have a setback for all the hard work that's been done.
Yeah, that's going to be a real challenge, and kind of quite fascinating on one level to watch as we loosen up a little bit, and as other states loosen up. Will we see that second wave of infections that has been we've been warned about? That would certainly be, I think, psychologically very difficult for a lot of people to deal with,
Sure.
myself included, I might add.
All this happened in 1918 too. This is not unprecedented. That there was a second wave in 1918, and there was hesitance, and there was an anti-mask movement in San Francisco in 1918, and sure enough, there was a second wave, and people started wearing more masks more often as a result. It's sort of human nature, I guess.
Yeah. One of the things I wondered if you have a clearer sense than I do is the whole question of the quarantining of out-of-state visitors. I mean, as we open up shops and stores, like you were saying, in Manchester, the retail scene is such a big part of the economy. I mean, on Sunday, I was walking around through Manchester for a while, and I was struck by the number of out-of-state license plates I was seeing. It was, I wasn't keeping count or score or anything like that. But I just happened to notice that there were true. I'd say at least 1/3, just to pull a number out of the air. Of course, we're from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, wherever. One or two from Tennessee too, for that matter, for some bizarre reason.
Those could be rental cars too.
But I just it was unclear to me. I assumed that people coming in from out of state were supposed to quarantine for 14 days.
Well, I think there's unless you have police going door to door, there's really what sort of way is there to enforce that unless you're in a country that has less in the way of a tradition of civil liberties, where what's the word I'm looking for here? Supervision, if you will, of people and whether they're complying with these orders is more robust. I would say I've had the same experience here in Manchester, that there's still, a fair amount of out-of-state plates, but that I got a sense that really started as soon as it became evident that folks maybe ought to get out of the tri-state area while the getting was good, and that they've been here for a while. I mean, there's really no way to know. I think that's one of the, considering that Vermont does rely so heavily upon visitors to, its tourism economy. And second homeowners. I think that's one of the arguments you could sort of make for continued mask use. Actually, is there were some initial strong reactions that we saw on the Northshire Community Forum, and a post that my colleague, journal editor Darren Marcy, had on the journal's Facebook page about second homeowners, and about whether there was people's concerns about whether people were going to be bringing coronavirus with them and whether it was going to cause a surge that we couldn't handle. That surge didn't really seem to happen. And so I wonder how a renewed, it'd be interesting to see if a renewed immigration of folks, summer visitors, summer homeowners, if we see more of them, if we're going to see a sort of a return of that reaction, or if people are going to look at it and say, well, we were worried the first time and everything turned out more or less okay. So
plus we need these people to
we absolutely need these people. Without, if we as a state, if we don't continue that hospitality, that makes the state, a bucket list destination for people. I mean, that makes it a little more difficult to market. Right. And when you look at the events that that bring people here, most of them of which are already not happening, you start wondering about, well, if everybody doesn't show up, what happens to our economy?
Right.
So someone's got it. We need some visitors. So we have to sort of figure out a way to manage how what that looks like and our expectations, and sort of, I could go on.
Right. Well, that reminds me. You've been covering the art scene in Southern Vermont now, across the papers you're writing with, and we've had the Manchester Music Festival canceled, Dorset Theatre Festival, Weston Playhouse, Vermont Summer Festival, the Dorset Horse Show still on, but I guess a question mark around that. What do you think is going to be the impact of all of that?
Well, I did a story for the weekend editions of the Banner and the Reformer this past week about how the arts community is dealing with this across all of Southern Vermont, and it's a big story because it's a significant part of Southern Vermont's economy. The statistic I was given by Karen Middleman of the Vermont Arts Council was about 9.9% of the Southern Vermont economy, of jobs, in the Southern Vermont economy, according to 2018 figures. That's a pretty big, that's a substantial number. So you're talking about people whose livelihoods maybe aren't directly connected to the creative economy, but they have ancillary roles. They support, they're in businesses that support these institutions. They're in hospitality or the food industry. So it's a larger number than it would seem, but just by counting the music festivals and theater festivals and think, well, how many people is that? Well, it's a much larger segment. And so the story was about how the state's trying to figure out how these institutions are trying to figure out how to survive, and some of the creative uses of technology that we've already seen. We're using one of them right now to continue to try to stay connected with their patrons, and ways they can figure out how they're going to come out of this and what it's going to look like, because you're possibly not going to have a full house at Dorset when the curtain goes back up, and that might be by design, because it might be by design, but it also might be because your audience might be scared about sitting really close to people in an audience, and so they're going to want to be 4 or 5 seats apart from everybody. And so, what does that do to your gate receipts and your reliance upon gate receipts? How does it shifts the whole model around for so many of these institutions, and a lot of them are going to be taking a year off. Marlboro Music was the most recent festival to say that they were going to have to take 2020 off. That was their 70th anniversary. It's going to have to wait for another year. As you mentioned, we're waiting on the horse show. We're also there's also the Green Mountain Bluegrass and Roots Music Festival.
Right, in August, yeah, theoretically.
So, and the horse show, as we know, that's a major generator of.
Yeah, that's millions.
This isn't really arts and culture, but it's an event.
Right.
And it's an event that draws a lot of people here for an extended period of time. And I know more than a few folks who they tell me they make their property tax payment based on the money they get from folks they lease their house to for 6 weeks.
I'm sure the Airbnb market
is absolutely. So
big part of that.
How we're talking about sort of an impact that we really, it's sort of it's kind of like a multi-tiered problem, because you're trying to take care of right now, but there's also a future that you have no idea what it's going to look like. And you also, then you throw in what the economy might look like and what some of these nonprofit organizations are going to do to raise money. Are they going to have to chew in their endowment if they can access it? What's going to happen to their investments, because the market's been very up and down. There's a lot of big unanswered questions for a big portion of Southern Vermont's economy, and so that's something we're going to have to watch pretty carefully.
Another area I'm sure you, both of us have been focused on, and you perhaps even more so than I, is the education front.
Yes.
As the parent of a high school age student, I guess you've gotten to play the role of teacher as well as
Not
working
quite.
journalist.
Well, I've been teaching her how to drive,
Oh,
and at least the streets are relatively,
yeah, this is a great time to learn.
it's a fantastic time to learn. We're still mostly in parking lots, but it's working pretty well, and I think we're going to be graduating the streets soon. And so, if that typical shoulder season traffic isn't around, well, that's it certainly would have been a positive for me learning to drive. Let's put it that way. I think my daughter is a little better start out of the gate than I was. She's also not driving standard. Uh, but we're talking about education
Yeah,
and all
remote
kinds of big
learning.
challenges
Yeah, bit of
for
struggle for the
for them.
educators, I think.
I think it's, just
Not
from
surprisingly.
the limited interaction that I've had, and certainly from the number of parades that we've seen covered, sort of um, kids lining up to wave to their teachers and the teachers driving by. It's a little bittersweet, it's because it's good to see that they're still trying to maintain that connection, and it's, and that the emotional connection is there, and that it's real, and that it's missed on both sides. But at the same time, it's like, it's kind of a shame that this is where we are right now, and this is like one of the big um, side effects of this pandemic that's maybe been. It's harder to see a silver lining over that lost classroom time with friends and with teachers that care about you, and
Oh
vice
yeah,
versa.
absolutely. I can't imagine
Yeah.
thinking back to my own last semester in high school, senior year. Gosh, if this had been no spring sports, no
Yeah.
graduation, no chance to kind of have one last go around with your
Sure.
friends. Holy mackerel!
Sure. I mean, just up the hill at BBA from where I am right now. I mean, there'd be a senior day, there'd be that slide down the hill, there'd be the bell ringing, there'd be a prom, there'd be, all sorts of senior events, and a graduation. One of the more interesting things we're hearing down in Bennington is that Hathaway's Drive-In might be offering itself as a drive-in graduation.
Right, I saw that.
Talk about Yankee ingenuity. Find solutions to pretty much any problem, and
Well, it makes me
uh,
wonder if drive-in move, just to change the subject quickly, drive-in movies could be making a comeback. Maybe that
if you
would.
can find the land to,
Right.
if they haven't all been torn down by now. I mean, most of them are gone.
I
They were
know.
all turned into shopping centers.
Well,
South of here in Berkshire County, there were 3 or 4 of them. They're all supermarkets now. Actually, there's one left that was, and it's now a park. The rest of them were all shopping centers.
well,
So
I think, yeah, why not?
why not?
Drive-in graduation?
Sure.
I
But
mean, otherwise the
why would they
alternative
cross
is
the stage to get their diploma is the question. Yeah. Do you spin donuts in celebration? It's
right. You have those
uh,
big gigantic hearing things
sure. Um,
on your window. I don't know.
let's see, education. I was thinking
But
about
I guess I find myself
challenges.
yeah, I mean, with all of this, I've been kind of finding myself wondering, how much of this stuff that we're doing now in the COVID pandemic carries forward into the future? Like for instance, like doing interviews like this. I mean,
Sure.
I've been able to do interviews with people that in the past I would have had to driven a long way, or they would have had to driven a long way, so that we could be face to face in person. And as a result, a lot of times they never happened, or they were difficult to arrange. But now it's like you send an email, oh yeah, I'm free at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever, and you're on Zoom and you get it done. So I find myself thinking, well, this is something that probably we might carry forward into the future.
Sure.
I mean, like, why not? And so I find myself thinking the same thing about education. Well, what may be coming out of this experience that teachers, students, parents might decide, hey, this isn't a bad way to go about it. Now, there are a lot of issues with that, as you mentioned, the personal contact, and the other big thing, of course, is the broadband connection,
Yes.
the inconsistency of that situation for a lot of families.
Well, I think it, just like the Depression welcomed in an opportunity to do rural electrification in the West, this might offer the opportunity and the impetus for us to solve that last mile riddle once and for all, and to get broadband into everyone's living room. Because we've seen, that it's a game changer for a lot of people being able to work from home in a situation like this where social distancing is required. It does offer advantages educationally. It allows for social interaction just on a very basic level. Just family reunions, family gatherings during holidays, birthday, just basic stuff. I think it also lets us know, as a society, it points out where the need is in terms of the way that we've had to serve students and families. Because you have to keep in mind that for a lot of kids, the meal they got the breakfast or lunch they got at school was their best meals of the day. Mm-hmm. And so, our schools have gotten in the business of providing meals to families that go out along with the education packets when they're being dropped off or being picked up. So, there's a lot we're learning about where we are as a society and as an economy from the way that we've had to sort of adjust on the fly to handle educating our kids.
Yeah, well, there'll be, I think, a lot of discussion and analysis about that, and are we doing it as effectively and as efficiently as possible?
Sure.
And why is it that that food element of schools was so important?
Sure.
I think that really put that into sharp relief for a lot of people that, many of us never really thought that much about it, but
sure.
Wow, that was a big deal.
And you look at the lines at the demand at the community food cupboard or the food pantry in Arlington. That also gives you an idea of where the need is.
Yeah.
And just incredibly, just from reporting on that, people have been, what the service that those organizations have been able to provide has literally been life-saving. And I think they deserve a little bit of a round of applause for the way they've been able to respond in this crisis, and the way that people have supported them in this crisis. One more word about this technology, and we both occasionally sit in on the Manchester Select Board and on government meetings.
Right.
Also sat in on something similar to this and the discussion about the International Association of Chiefs of Police report on the Bennington Police Department.
All right. Yeah.
Weeks ago, which and boy, there's a mouthful there. There's a lot to unpack in that report.
Yeah, I got through about half of it.
There's a lot to unpack there, and a lot for the community to think about. But the way that government is able to you have your typical government access because people are live on the screen. People can join in, watch, comment. But I noticed that one thing during the first Manchester meeting where they used this technology, that they were able to, as a viewer, you were able to see the document they were talking about on the screen at the same time that they were sort of discussing it on the side, sort of vertical Brady Bunch style. And so, that offers a real benefit for viewers who otherwise you'd have to be there or have a copy of the document in front of you to say, okay, well, what are we buying? But in this case, it's right there in front of you, and you can see the plan. You can see, the map of where things are supposed to go, or what the language is, or what things are going to cost. And I think there's a real, while I'm certain that, well, maybe I shouldn't say certain. I think folks want to go back to the in-person mode of government as, when they can, because there's a certain accountability to actually being in the room. Being able to offer that sort of interactive technology as a way for voters and citizens to keep up with what their government is doing offers some real advantages. The way that the state house committees have been handling this, sort of a similar thing, where you can sit down on YouTube and watch a Ways and Means Committee meeting, if that's really how you want to spend a few hours.
There are those of us who do.
But yes, but that, that access is, I mean, typically you'd have to
Yeah,
drive. I mean,
you
how
got
many
to get
hours is it to
Montpelier.
Montpelier? An hour and a half, 2 hours? Find a parking space in
Takes me
Montpelier.
two. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
There's
then
no
you're
cell
in a
service.
very cramped room with a
Yes,
lot of other people. It's
sure.
a lot more efficient, a lot more comfortable to do it from your living room.
And you don't have to find a parking space in downtown Montpelier,
Right, right.
which is a
And you're not
challenge.
putting out all those carbon emissions on your way back and forth.
Sure. Yeah. And, there's not the travel, certainly for, I think, the state members of the delegation are accustomed to doing business in person, and again, that's the gold standard, but under the gold dome. But being able to have the luxury of sitting down and watching a committee meeting that you otherwise couldn't have been at because you had to be in two places at the same time. I was talking to State Rep Kathleen James, and she was talking about how she was in an education meeting and she was able to go home, make a cup of tea, and watch the Ways and Means. So, I mean, there's some real advantages to that use of technology that I think maybe won't replace the in-person nature of government that we're accustomed to, and really is sort of the standard for democracy with a small d here in Vermont. But this certainly can help.
Oh yeah, I think it's been fascinating. You mentioning the select board stuff. I think there's a lot to in-person communication. Reading verbal cues and facial cues and all that kind of stuff.
There is stuff you don't get from the
a
screen.
harder time to do that through this mechanism, but there are some advantages and pluses to it, and I found myself thinking, gee, it'd be great if we could combine the best of both of these somehow or another.
Yeah.
I think it makes it potentially, anyway, once people get used to it, makes citizen access to the select board a lot easier. You don't have to get in your car and drive someplace to the town hall, and then you sit around, for an hour until the topic you're interested in comes up. Hey.
But then again, that also speaks to the need for finishing those last mile issues and having connectivity available to citizens. Because if citizen participation is requires a broadband connection, you don't have one, then that's sort of a less than equal situation, and that's not ideal. You don't want people feeling that they're or being disenfranchised because they don't have access to that technology.
Right. And we'll have to conclude on that note. I think we're just about out of time, but you raise a great point because, as the banner reported, the Southern Vermont Communication Union District got one of those $60,000 state grants to do a feasibility study. But there's also a lot of talk about maybe federal CARES money also going towards that to do the job. But
there's a lot of demand for that federal CARES money. The arts want into it. The schools are going to need into it. I mean, if you look at the deficit that the education fund is facing, it climbs by another $20 million every time I look.
That's pretty scary, because if that's not backfilled in some way or another, property tax rates are going to soar.
You're going to see painful cuts. You might have both.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of strain on that federal money, and I think there's something for the likes of us to keep a close eye on, is how what the process is for divvying up the goodies, and really that is essential aid for a lot of people who are struggling, for the arts, for education, for everyday services, and the way that that's distributed is going to matter.
Absolutely. Well, Greg, we're going to have to leave it there for today, but I want to thank you very much for making the time out of what I know
You're welcome.
is a busy day to come in, or to be in the Zoom room.
Yes.
And appreciate that very much. So good luck. Hang in there. And
thank you. Same to you.
We'll catch up with you sooner or later.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.